Musical Talk, the UK independent musical theatre podcast.
Hello, welcome to Musical Talk. Nice to be back. My name is Nick Hudson. I'm sitting across from someone whom I've wanted to talk to for a very, very long time. Ever since I saw his musical at Mount View. Mount View is a theatre school in this country, called Spend. And I'm sitting here with the composer and co-lyricist of that show and many, many, many other things, mostly here to talk about his new venture, Steve Brown. Welcome to Musical Talk, Steve.
Hi, Nick. Thanks for asking me in.
It's very early in the morning to be doing this, but this is your pre-chat before going off to your
pre-rehearsal.
Yeah.
I'm headed over to lovely Finsbury Park after this. I'm in Chiswick with you right now.
You are.
Lived here for many years.
As so many theatrical people do.
It's only, you can't throw a brick around here without hitting ant or deck.
A duo you know well, which I'm sure we'll talk about. You are working again with Harry Hill on Tony Blair, the Rock Opera, which are two phrases I never thought I'd see in the same book, let alone sentence or title.
Tony,
Us
of course, the obligatory exclamation mark.
Yeah.
Even if we hadn't put an exclamation mark there, somebody else would have done it.
Yes.
Just would have acquired one, along the way. But I suppose I kind of thought, Tommy, Tony. Tony, the Tony Blair Rock Opera, or as we sometimes like to call it, a poperetta.
Yes. Where the heck do you start with this show? Whose idea was it? How did it come about?
Well, of course, it was Harry's idea. I mean, I think anybody could have spotted that. But, I mean, originally, he had an idea because somebody had given him a record called Cheese, which was a double CD containing all the guilty pleasure songs. Songs that I kind of like to sing because they irritate me. Mm-hmm. I sing to myself the most terrible old tat. Sometimes I'll sing, something, glorious like Kurt Weill's September song, Occasionally some quality works its way into my own personal little self-delivered Spotify rundown. But a lot of the time I sing rubbish to myself. And there'd be stuff like Chirpy, Chirpy, Cheep, Cheep.
But they're often good melodies, aren't they?
Yeah, well, they do their job. Sugar, Sugar by the Archers. Anyway, this record had all of those kinds of things. If you think of one of those, it's probably on there. Tracy by the Cufflinks and bizarre stuff like that. And we've lost that sense of innocence, I think, But anyway, he had this record and he thought, oh, God, these are great. These songs are great. And at the same time, he's inordinately irked by the concept of the jukebox musical, a prejudice I share very much in common with him. And so he thought he'd put his own kind of anti-jukebox musical together, and he thought it'd be funny to take all these trivial, throwaway, disposable songs and have those as the score. And he thought, I'll do Tony Blair, that's a fairly operatic style story. And I kind of came in and just sort of helped him with a little mini workshop, which just meant we got 3 or 4 actors in. I came in and played my way through these songs as they occurred in his original script, and we soon discovered that it was unbearable.
Good.
Because while you
approved, stage it.
Yeah, that's it. We saved ourselves a lot of time afterwards, and so you could listen to 1 or 2 of those things on on a record, and it's the sound of those things that is somehow satisfying. They just weren't going to sustain. And of course, the reason why I dislike the jukebox musicals so much is because you're always treading water. And for me, call me a traditionalist, but the song itself must either serve character, plot development, or narrative, or
content dictates form,
or atmospheric, or hopefully a combination of all of those. But you must end somewhere different at the end of the song than where you began. What's the point? Unless you deliberately have a moment of the character dealing with a tricky problem, and it's
so content dictates form. It has to move everything forward unless he's trying to go through a
like
problem.
Soliloquy from the
Carousel,
wonderful Carousel. That's about 7 minutes long, but you see him wrestling with a kind of a dichotomy there, and but at the end he's made a decision. So it's a one-man song, but he comes to a conclusion at the end of it. And it's very dramatic, and it's beautiful to listen to. So all boxes are ticked. With a jukebox musical, you've either got to change some of the lyrics, or you have to construct a whole range of things. I didn't see it, but Harry mentioned this the other day. That there's a guy's manager in the Rod Stewart musical, Tonight's the Night, whatever it is, and she's called Maggie May.
Or you have We'll Rock You, which has a character called Galileo. I mean, for me, the best jukebox musical was called Our House, which is a lot of people, the Songs of Madness, and Tim Firth did the book for that, and it really does.
Yeah, and he's like a proper writer.
Yeah, and it really does encapsulate the songs and the mood of the songs, because I think Madness are inherently theatrical anyway, and I think Suggs wrote new stuff for it too.
They're theatrical. They're in a long tradition of what I'd call that British vaudeville rock and roll.
Yeah.
The Kinks use some of that, and
it's musically interesting as well, which so many jukebox musicals, the original songs aren't, and it takes, dare I say, musical arrangers like our friend Mike Dixon, for example, to come on board and make them meld into a theatrical sound.
And that's I've always kind of thought that and the thing with pop and rock music is it's largely based around a groove, and what's attractive to me about writing in the theatre is that you're allowed to go off on tangents musically.
Yes, and it's never frowned upon, is it? It's even it's kind of, he's gone here. I didn't expect him to do that, both musically or with style.
Yes, absolutely. But I mean, there's also the idea of how often do you hear a record on the, a song being played on the radio, contemporary, where there's a rallentando or a signature change or
7/8 bar or something.
Yeah, well, I'm just mentioning that I produced I produced the first album by Laura Mvula, Sing to the Moon, and there's a song on there, I'm Flying Without You, and when she kind of brought this song into me, I said, is this 7/4 or 7/8? She said, I'm not sure. And we spent about half an hour discussing it. It's just kind of talk that
talk shop. As a bit
of a nerd about that kind of thing. I quite enjoy that. And I had a guy who I sort of mentored in some small way, and I love Laura. I said I'll take you to see one of the shows. It was in Islington, and we were standing. This song was going on. I said, "Look at that! The people in front of us, standing in front of us." I said, "They don't know it, but they're dancing in 7/8."
Well, it's not clapping in 7/8. But I mean, that's what surprises. That doesn't surprise me, but I enjoy about your stuff, even because I haven't seen a huge amount. Forgive me. I saw Sing, Sing, Sing. I can still sing, sing, sing. Still remember that. And spend. Even I'm getting my shows. And I saw I Can't Spend, which was wonderful. Can we talk about I Can't Sing for a bit? Because
I'll tell you the thing.
That was Harry Hill as well.
Yes, The thing about wanting to write, I mean, I've worked on a range of different stuff, and if you put a gun at my head and say you have to choose,
which I'm doing now, listeners, don't worry,
which is not happening. Of like write for television, I've
radio as we talked
radio,
about.
done a bit of performing even in my time, produced records, I've done a film even, and theatre, and record production. If you put a gun at my head and said I had to choose one, well, you wouldn't even need the gun.
Theatre.
It would be writing in this way for the reasons largely that I've explained, of the freedom, in a sense, as you write, which.
But forgive me, when you did your TV stuff, Spitting Image, for example, you were still thinking of it as a musical moment, weren't you? Because the comedy songs would probably be. I believe there's a Spitting Image stage show coming at some point.
Oh, God.
With the you were still in your kind of everything has to rhyme properly, the jokes have to land. It's still the same discipline as you would use.
It's funny, yeah. I'm less. Yes, the whole thing about rhyming, is tremendously important to me.
Well, anyone who can rhyme prisoners with his and hers, I think, deserves top marks in my book.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
They're not sat if they rhyme. It's an assonant rhyme, isn't it? Is a half rhyme.
Becoming very, very scarily frequent in musical theatre nowadays.
Theatre. See, I think it has no place in it whatsoever. It's lazy. It's not as satisfying. Now, if you take somebody like Bob Dylan, who I absolutely love, and he's full of rhymes, full of really clever, perfect rhymes, and a lot of the stuff is half rhymes as well. And that to me is perfectly acceptable because he isn't now and hadn't been for a long time, but he came from a folk tradition, which just doesn't obey it in that way.
And poetry probably as well.
And within poetry.
I think, one of my greatest idols is Billy Joel.
Yeah,
and
he's absolutely great.
He does some astonishing rhymes sometimes. Sometimes they're not as great. And I always feel, I could fix that rhyme to make it perfect and it would belong in a musical. But when you were doing I Can't Sing and you were parodying kind of pop songs, were you torn between, do I parody pop song lyric tropes and have half rhyming, or do I make them all perfect?
I did deliberately choose that in one number, which was the rap.
Yeah.
The rap number.
Before Hamilton. Doing spellbinding rap on stage. Sung by a monk.
It's
not a monk, a hunchback.
And there were a couple of half rhymes in that because I thought, well, that's what they do.
Yeah.
I've written a couple of rap elements for Steve Coogan's latest tour. He does there's a little moment in that. Where's Alan Partridge? I'm here. Where's Alan Partridge? He was born in Norfolk,
There's nothing more funny than middle class rap.
So he comes on and he does a really authentic sounding rap, and I tried to copy those triplety kind of things and those internal half rhyme things. But if I'd made them all perfect, it wouldn't have sounded like the real deal. So funny, isn't it? Make it wrong to make it right.
When you work with people like Harry Hill and Steve Coogan, do they love musicals as well, or do you have to kind of ground them in the traditions?
I'm not even sure that I would say that I love musicals myself.
One doesn't when you write them or work in it.
It's...
were they educated in the...
Some of my favourite things are musicals, but that doesn't mean that there's a new musical out and I must
You'll go into the
go and see it. But when it works, it's sublime.
But were Harry Hill, did you have to say you need an I Want song here, you need this thing here, or did they know where they were coming from?
No, I mean, I sort of... I'm aware of all those kind of rules, but I think it's good to know rules so that you can use or avoid them as you deem fit. But no, he wasn't. There's he liked Rocky Horror, like the Producers and some other stuff. It's like he's seen
both satires, which are interesting.
He said, Mrs. Harry, I'm talking about. Coogan's very knowledgeable musically, does love it. I mean, he's sort of musically, I don't mean this as an insult at all, he's musically semi-literate. Mm-hmm. So he kind of knows what you're doing and he knows what he's talking about. He can't always necessarily put it into practice, and that's why...
It's like Lionel Bart was the same.
Well, I'm not quite putting him up there.
But he wasn't to me. He couldn't play the stuff on the piano. He was a hummer, wasn't he? And
it's weird, isn't it? Yeah. And actually, we're going all over the place here, but that's just the nature of conversation.
Yeah.
But with Tony the Rock Opera, I began, and I'd say 50% of it I wrote away from a keyboard. That I just knew how it was going to go, and I just sang it into. And I tried to write lyrics and music at the same time.
Yes, that age-old question.
Yeah. So, they came at the same... It was a perfect marriage. They came together. And I would just sing it onto the...
Thank you for that image.
And I just sang it into the...
The phone or...
Into the phone. And then first 3 days, had 3 songs... I don't normally work like that. And then I went to the piano, which was somewhere else, and played them. I knew how they went.
And you can always...
That was interesting.
Yeah, it's because then you can improve it, but you've still got the...
Yeah, it was a bit of tidying up.
Idea in your...
But no, I basically knew I knew all the chords.
And... just play them in the right order.
Guitar George.
And is it...
There's a bad rhyme for you. Check out Guitar George. He knows all the chords. Yeah, but he hasn't got his Stillmans, has he?
Is it sung through or through composed?
No. So it is a poperetta,
right?
And that's another thing. That's another question to ask: is are you going to do a stop-start? Which is actually, once you've identified it as that tells you what you need to do. In this rehearsal, I'm a stickler for when someone gives the cue line and then the intro on the piano begins. Say, start back under it. Let's have the music under dialogue always, please.
You want to speak and then sing immediately on the cue.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an obvious thing because everybody who's ever sort of done it knows that. But also elements where you, I think, to contain dialogue within the song is always a lovely thing to do, and you're allowed to do it. And sort of stopping and starting within the song. So there's one song that begins and we get about halfway through and then it stops and suddenly Robin Cook gives a speech.
The whole world stops.
And there's a joke. And then the song picks up again.
Do you find yourself with this show being back in the spitting image kind of chair, if you know what I mean?
No, because you're... I saw the change... when I started, and it's 40 years ago, you could often write, like if you're writing for some sketch show, a song for some sketch show or another, you could present something that was going to run for 2.5 minutes, sometimes 3. That's never going to happen now. Never. 1 minute and 10. And the other thing is, because I used to try and get as many jokes within the lyric as I could, but now it's sort of a one joke thing. So it's going to be 1 minute and 10. It's like it's a concept joke rather than here's a setup in this first line, in the second line of the couplet, here's the punchline at the end. So I'm probably gone more towards, back to that in some way. But at the same time, because a lot of the songs are. So anyway, listen, I'm going to rewind a little bit where you asked about whose idea it was. So we did this tryout of Tony, the musical, and we said, okay, that doesn't work with these old songs, you know. And so he sort of just had it lying around for a while, wondering what to do with it. And then he said, I don't know. He said maybe the thing is you should write songs for it. Maybe turn it into an original thing. I said, I think it's the only way that you're going to be able to get all that information and story and let people out after 2 hours. Otherwise, they're going to have to book a premiere in, and and come back the following day. And so...
Works for Harry Potter. Works for Harry Potter.
It did, and that's all. But even they're changing that on Broadway, aren't they?
Thankfully not here, which is
and
good.
If you want to see it, my friend Paul Thornley was in that, and he got us tickets to see it. And I've got no interest in Harry Potter, but we took my stepdaughter, and I thought it was fantastic.
It ticks theatrical boxes, doesn't it? You could say.
Well, I said it's like a cross between theatre and a theme park.
No wonder I like it so much.
In a good way.
Yeah.
I thought it was fantastic. Yeah, really, an absolutely unique experience. Anyway, I'm not going to plug them. I don't need my bloody money. They don't need any more money or plugging from me. So I went, yeah, okay, and we talked about it a little bit more, and I said, listen, he is like the pop prime minister. That's what That's what we
has guitar, doesn't he, and things.
And the guitar. So why? Let's call it a rock opera. Now, it's not because it is a rock opera that we call it that. It's just that we want to conjure that idea.
It's like Jerry Springer, the opera, wasn't it?
Exactly. It's not an opera at all.
So, did that kind of get the gears going, and you were able to have real fun with it at that point? And
yeah. So I did the opening song. And it set the tone. That idea that what is the opening song in a musical supposed to do? It's going to tell you what the theme is. It's going to tell you how we're going to present, what style we're going to present this in. It's going to give you clues about the evening that's going to come before, that's going to unfold before you. And we do that. And the opening song is very operatic and then very rocky. So we fulfill the brief. It's a bit like Sgt. Pepper. Suppose Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Arts Club Band being a concept album. They start with that opening song and it segues into a little help from my friend. Yeah. And then they just say, we can't be bothered with that.
Yeah, we'll just go nuts. And what does this story tell? It's obviously Tony Blair, one of the Prime Ministers of England.
I think the strength of Harry Hill doing... You okay? I think the strength of Harry Hill doing the book is he's not somebody that you would immediately expect to be involving himself in a political satire. And like you said earlier before we started recording that you thought that I Can't Sing was in some ways an old 1920s style vaudeville musical comedy.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of the Marx Brothers, and Harry less so. But we do we did recognise that when they started, and they were playing vaudeville houses, and they got so successful that the natural step up was to put them into a proper Broadway theatre, and these shows were written around them to allow them to do their shtick in between. And so those early things that were subsequently made into films were stage musicals with them doing their set pieces in between. And
the tab would come down, and the tab would come down, and they would do their bits.
Well, I don't know whether they would necessarily do in front of cloth stuff, but there would be some hokey story, and probably there'd be a sort of a couple of Juve leads at the front, and some love story there at the centre of it. But no one really cared about that. They wanted to see them goofing off, and. So with this, so I'd say this isn't a stop-start musical. It's a start musical. We start a song and then we start a set piece, bit of, there's some, from the opening song, we start at the bit and we say, let's go back to the beginning. We start in some future present day where Tony Blair is on his deathbed and he's thinking, I best make my peace with my maker. And we have Peter Mandelson, who is like our MC there. He's a factotum. He plays a whole range of parts, and it's like, he's like your cabaret MC.
Yeah.
And so he's the one who directs the audience if they need help.
The chorus, in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, a one-man chorus. And he says, well, Tony, let's go back to the beginning of us. Much time as it takes. And then we go back to him being born, Mr. and Mrs. Blair. And he's saying, push, breathe, push. And we see Tony Blair being born.
Lovely.
It's a coup de théâtre.
Yes.
It's all very tasteful. And then we have a sort of Handel's Messiah style number where his future is mapped out for him. And within about 20 minutes, he's won his first seat for the Labour Party.
But that's the joy.
Moves at a wonderful pace.
That's the joy of musicals, that you can have songs tell huge amounts of material in 5 or 6 minutes.
If
they're done
He
properly.
meets and falls in. We got this guy Charlie Baker, who was the Hunchback in I Can't Sing, and he's a fantastic all-rounder.
Good.
Really,
Especially when he's hunched over.
He's really superb. Very good.
Thank you. I'm warming up, don't worry.
What do you got in that tea? And he's a fantastic. He's tremendously likable as a performer, and he's got a great voice. He's a very funny guy, and he can dance really well, and he also plays the trumpet at one point.
And who is he? Tony Blair? Was he?
And he is Tony Blair.
Okay, so does he do the guitar as well? Do we have?
There is a guitar, but like the gag is that Tony Blair looks at this Union Jack guitar. All he ever does is look at it and then put it back in the.
And do you get into the war in Iraq? I mean, do you?
Oh yeah.
So you have Bush,
Absolutely.
I presume, appears.
Oh, we've got. I know. There's a. The thing is, there's a red line of good taste, and so we just jump all over that.
Good. I'm very excited.
We have Princess Diana in the car crash.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't present the car crash. Now that's an interesting.
You're not referring to the Diana musical, the car crash. You're referring to the actual car crash that sadly happened.
No, actually talking to the regrettable death of the one-time Princess of Wales in Paris, she appears. We have a wonderful young black actress called Madison Swan playing Princess Diana, and because we're diverse, of course, and we're also cross-gender. Rosie Strobel plays John Prescott.
Brilliant. Well, it sounds completely zany in all the right places. Does it
zany? So you'd never use that word because it's so often misappropriated. But it is. It's mad.
Does it have a heart?
Yes. You see, this is this is a big question that we sort of tend to scoff at.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's okay. There are wonderful moments where you kind of think, this is so sweet. There's something sweet about this. Now, there's Neil Kinnock appears in it, and he has a song called "Well, All Right," which is a reference to his exuberance at the Sheffield rally that presaged the ignominious and unexpected defeat of Labour in the 1992 election, where Major won completely unexpectedly, and we all thought that Kinnock was going to get in. And so he does this song where, well, all right, we're going. It's Labour boys, we're going. We're going to do this, and it's a nice uplifting song, and at the end of it, Labour are beaten. And I wrote this thing, and I thought, this is fun. It's got some good gags in it, and it's sort of like a Welsh male voice choir. And as I often do when I come up with something, first thing I do before I send it to Harry is I run it past my wife.
Okay.
And then I'll send him a little voicemail. And then he'll a couple of times I've done particularly well in his opinion. He sent back a text saying, "It's fantastic, Steve. Take the rest of the day off."
Do you still?
And so I played it to my wife.
Yeah.
This well all right Neil Kinnock song, and she said, "Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's lovely. It's really great." She said, "You really like him, don't you?" I said, "What, Kinnock?" She said, "Yeah, you admire him, you respect him." I said, "Yeah, I did actually." And there's something, even though you know that there's disaster just around the corner. It's not that we don't, although we're taking the piss out of everybody who figures in it. Nobody is. We're completely inclusive in this sense. Everybody is up for a.
It's like Book of Mormon. It still has heart, but they still rip the fun out of everyone, albeit with slightly dodgy rhyming. But they still, do it very, very. You have to have a kind of emotional core.
If there's some warmth about you as a writer, and I like to think there's some warmth is going to come through. And but what I'm getting at is even there. Now there's another song that we really like. It's a short one. It's a very short one. Harry had taken this speech by Gordon Brown, where he'd gone. And it was just verbatim what he'd said in the speech, very short. And it was like, the idea was like, this is what Brown was capable of coming up with. And then we say, well, what do you think about clause 4? What do you think about macroeconomics, Tony? He goes, yeah, that, to an effect. And I said, this thing where he declaims this stuff, I said, I could just take that speech and turn it into a sort of recitative moment, as in an opera. Market forces cannot educate us or equip us. They must learn economic change. And that's it. It's just one of those current moments. And then at the end, everybody is kind of drawn into it. The rest of the cabinet who are falling asleep, and then he says something. He says, "This is our belief in society. Our belief in society," and the opposite of what Thatcher said. There's no such thing as society. And then Gordon Brown says, "This is our belief in society," and they all twig, and then they go macroeconomics, and it's oddly uplifting.
Yeah. Well, it has to be, because it's someone taking what someone says and believing in it. That's
yes,
and only song can do that.
Well, exactly, and it elevates this very prosaic and pragmatic language that contributed to this perception of Gordon Brown as a rather dour Scottish fellow, had no empathy for his fellow man. But the opposite is true. And if only he delivered his speeches as musical numbers, and he'd have been in power now.
And also, you probably, and I mean no offence by this, you probably couldn't have bettered what he said. To write something, rewrite what he said, it probably still would have just worked. It sounds almost like the kind of London Road musicals, where it was just
an interesting thing,
verbatim.
Yeah, it's and that technique, it's kind of interesting. I mean, somebody asked me about London Road once. That's one of the things I've really enjoyed in relatively recent years. I said, but that thing of taking speech and the speech pattern and the natural music in our conversational exchanges, and to reflect that musically, or to find the music
Literally
in
where
speech.
to achieve, isn't it? Yeah.
What I say is that's kind of what songwriting's supposed to do anyway. You're trying to. This is why stress is so
scansion
important.
is so important.
Scansion and stress is so important. That's what we try and do, and you try and make the music become symbiotic with what the lyric is saying. It's not like, well, here's a really miserable lyric, let's give it a happy tune, unless you're making a point with that.
Which Joe Swing and the Opera did. They took kind of very coarse language and put it to beautiful.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
know.
The juxtaposition
Yeah.
thing. That's another thing. But if somebody is making a straight point in a song, if you're saying, if you're expressing a tender thought, you're going to give it a tender.
It's not on a jaunty 6/8.
reading. Yeah.
Well, I look forward to seeing the Tony Blair Rock Opera.
It's tremendous. There's fantastic cast. Unlike I Can't Sing, what we learnt from that experience is do something. You get it in under 2 hours. Don't be dictated to by the mechanics of the of the set
Stage.
design.
Yeah.
Do something that works without a set. Is a key to that. Make sure everybody's going to get out in 2 hours and do something that you can do with 8 people. And in fact, although I think we have because we've got a cover within the cast, we've ended up with 9, and it gives us a bit more vocal
Very important nowadays as well.
heft.
Yes.
So important. The tickets are ridiculously expensive. I don't know how people on a standard wage is. It's a hell of a commitment to go out, and then so desperate to be entertained. I got to get my money's worth.
Well, it happened in the Great Depression. It happened in 9/11, and now it's happening again with the fact that now we can go out. People are going out in their droves, which is brilliant. But I think the producers are getting a bit greedy, a bit cocky, you could say.
Yeah, what is this? Gee whiz.
I mean, £400 to see a 90-minute play at the Harold Pinter Theatre called Cock. I think was a bit of a dickish move, if you want to know, which is why they got rid of that. But it's just,
400 quid.
Yeah, they were charging 400 quid for the final night of the play. Didn't even have Taron Egerton in it, even though it was meant to.
It's scandalous, really.
But it's been so lovely to talk to you about all your stuff and the art of songwriting, which needs to be spread more to the up-and-coming writers of today. Make sure your words rhyme, please.
Yes, I've used the same Stillman's rhyming dictionary for the last, 38 years. I like a book when the pages start to fall to pieces.
Book-eared and
You think I
dog-eared.
could remember them all after all that time?
What's your favourite rhyme that you've ever done? If we can end on a...
Oh, well, I'll tell you, Steve Coogan said to me, can you do one of... He said, my favourite rhyme of yours, what's that? He said he did a song in his last tour, Pauline Calf. You see me, you want me, think how can I win her? Well, maybe maybe a cocktail, then Nando's for dinner. But how take me where you can take me whenever. Take me to the Marriott Hotel. Boom, boom. Da, 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 da. So it was a celebration of the joys of staying at the Marriott Hotel, and it had something. It had something in there. I can't. It's something about you looking ill at ease and coffee and tea making facilities.
Yeah. It's so satisfying, isn't it? There was a wonderful...
That was his favourite one. I can't remember the exact line.
It's one of Victoria Wood musical called The Day We Sang, and she wrote a song, When You Journey Into the Burney Inn, which I thought was quite... it's quite lovely.
I naughtily wrote from a request. I still write material from time to time for my ex-wife, Jan Ravens. And
you wrote a Victoria Wood parody, didn't you?
I did write a Victoria Wood parody. She said, listen, I need you to tell me whether you think this can work as a celebration. Obviously, it's not, we love her. Hey, can we do something that is a pastiche that actually is a sort of an ode to her, a musical homage in her style? She said, and if you say no, she said, I won't do it. I'll only do it if you do it. And I was really pleased. I
listened to that yesterday.
Oh, did you?
I did. There's a performance of her doing it on the Tube of You, and it sounded so like her. It was like she, just wonderful. So thank you for that song. It's lovely.
Thank you. No, I mean, and I really. Somebody said to me, what was it? 2015, wasn't it? Was the year when
everyone died
and everybody else died.
Yeah.
It's a wonder there was anybody left. And somebody said to me, which was the one that really got to you? Which was the one that you were really upset about? And I said, the one I shed a tear about was Victoria Wood, because I worked with her once.
Yeah.
And she was a joy.
Again, perfect rhyming, perfect structure, perfect sketching.
Really, really clever stuff. But she did that. I Wonder What Happened to Him was it was a parody of an Noel Coward song. Remember Brenda James? I was captain of games. I came out at a lesbian's ball, didn't feel glad to be gay at all. Who said that? Tom Robinson, was it? Couldn't agree and went back in the closet.
But it's so more satisfying when everything...
Yeah. Yes, it's fabulous. It's really sad. Yeah, it is.
I mean, had she said cupboard, it wouldn't have been as...
Yeah.
And, well, here's to Victoria Wood. I'm sure, a massive influence for you as well, growing up alongside her and...
Well, she was only a couple of years older than me, to be honest. But again, an incredible all-rounder, fantastic writer, a great songwriter. I mean, she's like, I was saying Noel Coward, she's like Noel Coward. Really, a female Noel Coward. No, in the...
I mean, Let's Do It is almost Cole Porter.
Absolutely. Yes, it's a pastiche. It's a Cole Porter pastiche. No, saying that when Theresa May was still Prime Minister, and it seemed, although Boris Johnson has put this in the shade, she was just kept hanging on all the time. And I said to Jan, how about a rewrite of I'm Still Here, Sometimes I'm Still Here? And she went, yeah, do you think you could do it? And I did it. I was really, because the rhyming in that is so, and I know, and see the book on the shelf where he says he's denied permission to that. They ended up not doing it, so I didn't have to wrestle my conscience over that one. He said because people don't understand the rhyme structure in it. And I was absolutely forensic on it. And I'll send it to you sometime.
Thank you.
I was really pleased with it. And Rory Bremner, she was doing the show with Rory Bremner. He said, can we have Trump? Can we have May and Trump? It's like how they both hanging on. And it had a little exchange. They had a little exchange in it where between Trump and May, and I'll try and do the voices, where he goes to her, lately you sure been eating dust. She says, I did beat Corbyn, but only just. Lately you sure been eating dust.
Yeah.
I did beat Corbyn.
Yeah. I mean, I remember that there was a...
Only just. And it's a gag. It's a gag right at the end.
I remember someone was giving an analysis of the Sondheim song, and he read a verse, and you notice the rhymes at the end, and then he said, I want to read it to you again, and you'll notice the rhymes, every line had an internal rhyme that everyone missed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Victoria Wood's death moved me, but Stephen Sondheim's death really got to me, and he will be missed, but what a legacy he's...
Yes, of course. It was but do you know what? I thought that's wonderful. Yeah, actually, I thought it was great in a sense that he died when he did. He was still able to enjoy everything that was around him. He'd really had a bit of an Indian summer in terms of his career and the appreciation of the stuff.
The films and
all the films. I'd seen Follies before, obviously the one that was at the National, and I thought, yeah, it's great songs, but really, that was the one at the Shaftesbury, and it had Dinah Rigg in it, and
it's Cameron's production, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Massey, Daniel Massey. It was really good. I remember him as being excellent. He did that Too Many Mornings. He was really good. Lovely, a real voice, actor singing voice, And I kind of thought, it's so, I don't know, it's one concept. And when I saw that at the National, it just blew my mind. We were the last people sitting in the theatre.
You lost your mind, you could say.
Yeah,
Yeah, I am losing my mind.
I didn't want to. It's the only time I'd sat in the theatre. I don't want to leave. It was. I didn't want to leave what I just experienced. That's real kind of.
And they filmed
stuff,
it, didn't they? So I think you can revisit it if you wanted to watch.
In there. But what a great production, great direction, and
I saw the Sweeney Todd in the Pie Shop, which will be for me one of the greatest moments.
I saw that off. I saw that it transferred. I know.
Yeah.
Off Broadway. Off Broadway.
Because it started in Tooting or somewhere random, then it went into London, then it went to Broadway, and just...
There you go, you see, what they're doing that with 8. I saw the one that they did at the Watermill, that Sarah Travis did the... She originally came on board, I had Sarah Travis MDing Tony.
Okay.
Yeah, I love her. She's great.
She's very talented.
Yeah.
As are you, Steve. Thank you so much for joining me on Musical Talk. Where can people... see the show, because we
don't forget the plug, boy. We start on the 1st of June. It's the Park Theatre, which is a fabulous theatre run by Jez Bond in Finsbury Park. It's a really nice in the round theatre. It's a perfect stage for us because we can address the whole audience.
Address the nation.
And there's lots of stuff that got. The other important thing is don't be afraid to cut stuff, and I've become more ruthless with my work over time. Is learning not to be, but there was some. Luckily, there was a song delivered, a very small song delivered by the Queen, and I'm really glad that we cut it early on. Because we'd be cutting it now, I think. Yeah.
A final question, but you mentioned Sunday.
It's a 1st of June. We run for about 6 weeks at the Park Theatre in Finsbury Park, and tickets are on sale now. And the publicity is just starting to roll along. Do please come along. It's a fantastically funny show. Harry has done a brilliant job, and. I highly recommend my own work.
I highly recommend your work as well, Steve. A quick question before we end. You mentioned when you sent the stuff to Harry Hill, do you still get nervous sending your material off to the powers that be? Does that ever stop?
No. Because
I hate it.
No. It's like, and when it works, and you still go, I mean, you can't expect people to just say, yeah. They'll say, what about that? What about this? He does more or less tend to leave me be.
Do your job.
He might say, is that a bit strong? And things have gone. There might be a question of taste, but usually it's fine with him. With Coogan, there was one thing, I didn't quite. I hadn't quite got the brief on one thing. Then and then the second one that went through, you're a genius. And when you get that from Coogan, that's quite nice.
Because I always find if there's too many people involved, you send something, it gets changed so drastically, then it's something completely different, and then they want it changed, and then it goes back to what it was in the first place, and then they all love it.
I have one bit of advice then. Don't ever work on film soundtrack.
I plan not to. Don't worry.
Because you've got a producer, you've got a director, and you've got a writer.
Yeah.
And they all say 3 different things to you. What are you going to do? Huh? What are you going to do?
They never know what they want. But Steve, thank you so much for joining me on Musical Talk. It's been a lovely conversation.
You're very welcome.
I look forward to the show. And hopefully we will have you on again in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's been lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thanks a lot, Nick.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Musical Talk. To find out more about the world of Musical Talk, you can visit our website at musicaltalk.co.uk, where you'll find all our episodes, or you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Please follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Musical Talk.
Oh, come on.
You're needed, Steve.
How very unprofessional. Look.
Unless the song gets interrupted.
That's my wife. She always knows when I did tell her. Anyway.